Hey everybody, I'm Tyler, and welcome to MovieVS, where I take two movies each week and pit them head to head against one another and tell you which one's better. And this week is the spooky version, Halloween, because I saw two ghost movies. Yeah, that's right. You typically not a big fan of the supernatural stuff. Just doesn't really do anything for me. But this week, in lieu of Halloween, I saw Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension, and Crimson Peak. So let's get this going. So Paranormal Activity, it's apparently supposed to be the last. I think it is about this random family. Well, I guess not totally random. I don't know. It's about this family who decide they find a camera in their house and they start filming, and the one dude's brother's there, and then this one girl who I don't even they never really explained to her. She's there too, and so it's a husband and wife, their daughter, and then I guess their friends, well, his brother and her friend. I don't know. So they find this camera in the attic with all these VHS tapes and stuff like that, and the guy, the dad, is like, "Oh, this is weird." By the way, this is gonna be full spoilers. I'll put a timestamp for the end of when I say what my final thoughts, but full spoilers for both movies here. Uh, so they find this camera, and they the dad notices that it's noticing weird things, I guess, and so he looks it up and he doesn't find any camera like it, and it's got like six things in it instead of four. I don't remember what it was exactly. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, this sees the ghost dimension," and they're like, "Well, you're crazy." And see, and this is where a lot of the problem comes into this. There's two things. One, there's never a point where you feel like, oh, it makes sense that he's filming, because except near the end when he's like, hey, shit's hitting the fan, there's clearly ghosts. Let's film this. But before that, it's that's where like these found footage movies get shitty, because at least with something like the Blair Witch Project, it never felt forced that they were filming except near the end. But this movie, they were just filming for to build exposition. Like there's no clear reason. And also it's like they told the actors, like the director was like, "Okay guys, we want you to act like you're acting." Cuz how it's always when people act like they're acting, it's always like worse than just acting. I mean, these people were so stiff. So, and the second thing is, this dude has clear footage of just like the most bonkers things happening, or like this huge, like, ghostly figure, black figure, clearly just a clear black figure, and on footage, and he's just like not showing anybody, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I mean, this stuff is happening, I swear." And they're like, "You're crazy." And he's not like, "Hey, I have like, look at this, I'm not insane." It's there were so many frustrating moments like that where it was just ridiculous. And so they're watching these tapes, and he's filming his daughter, and they realize that his daughter's like talking to Toby, who is the ghost from all the past movies. And they're also looking at this footage from the kids, from the 80s or whatever, and they're seeing that, oh, they're doing these weird rituals with this ghost. And then they God, then he's this is so stupid. So they realize that the girl in the video is like describing his daughter's room, and he's like, "Oh shit!" But that doesn't make sense because this is from the '80s, and where in 2013, that's when the video says it is 2013. Why, I don't know. But they're like, "Oh shit!" And oh wait, this house was built on the same land that their house was when they were and and then they're like, "Okay, so he's freaking out that it's the same, and the dude's like, you're crazy. This is another point. Like, his brother, they eat fucking edibles, so they're high, but they're watching this video where this girl is clearly describing the room of his daughter, and the dad is like, yo, that's my daughter's room, and the brother is like, you're high, dude. It's like, no, it's he's clear, like, almost exactly describing this room. Like, they could have at least tried to make it sound more insane. But then later, the daughter comes in and is like, "Oh, I don't know." She's complaining about something, and he's like, "Oh, I'll take you back to your room." And while they're still watching this video, and the daughter sneezes, and the girl, the girl on the video says, "Bless you," in response to the daughter's sneeze. I laughed so hard at that. That would like, she, this is how they show that it's like proof that these people are seen into the future, into their lives or something like that. It's stupid either way. So then, even though they have a priest come in, and the priest is like, it doesn't matter if you guys leave, the demon's still gonna follow you. They leave the house because they're scared. And then a couple of them come back, and they're like doing shit, and the girl comes back, and I don't even know, dude. It all ends up where everybody dies except for the little girl, and she goes through this like portal in her room that takes her to the past, and she's able, I don't, it makes other stuff like this. She turns the ghost Toby into a real person. So I guess in the next one, now it's just Normal Activity, serial killer or something like that. Like this, he's just a dude now who kills people. I don't know if he has powers. I mean, it didn't really look. He just looked like a naked guy walking around. All you saw were his feet. So maybe he was wearing short shorts. I don't know. Uh, the movie was. Suffice to say, this movie was like total ass. This was terrible. I've I've seen the first Paranormal Activity. I've fast forwarded through most of the second one, and I saw the third one in theaters. I didn't see the fourth one, but as someone who doesn't even like Paranormal Activity, this movie was bad. At least the third one had some like original stuff, like the oscillating fan camera, and it also brought in like this lore to it that this movie tries to close, I guess. It was just it, it was bad, and again, it just doesn't make sense why they were filming and why these people just didn't believe him when he had a camera that showed the ghost. Like, what? You can't lose in convincing somebody that something's going on if you have a camera that should. And there's also just stuff that goes on that's like, okay, I don't believe in ghosts, but if this was happening, I'd be like, something's weird, something's going on. Like, this stuff just doesn't happen. You're not like, oh well, that, like, if I just, I'm done. I can't talk about this movie anymore. I don't even know if I want to talk about this movie anymore. It's so they're like, and it's so badly like written in so many aspects that, like, for like a stupid joke, like he's opening a box and he's like, oh, what's in the box? And the guy goes, it's cock, and he pulls out a caulk gun. It's like, okay, dude, you weren't even like, I know they sound similar, but this dude, like, you weren't even trying to pronounce the correct. It was, oh god, it was just all. It was. I mean, there's a reason why I was like the only one in the theater. I can't. I don't. I just. Okay, so Crimson Peak, Guillermo del Toro movie. It's got a lot of pretty good actors. This one is about a girl who she's seen ghosts in the past, specifically the ghost of her mother, and the ghost of her mother came to her when she was like 12 or something like that, and she told her beware of Crimson Peak. So years later, she's living with her pops, trying to be a writer, and right off the bat, This isn't Guillermo del Toro's most subtle movie. And right off the bat, she brings a story to the publicist, and she's like, "Oh, here you go. Here's my book. Please publish it." And the guy's like, you know, I don't really want to publish a ghost story." And she says, "It's not a ghost story. It's a story with a ghost in it." And everybody in the audience collectively rolls their eyes because they know that that's pretty much probably Guillermo's pitch to, you know, the company when he did that. It's like, oh, it's not a ghost story. It's a story with a ghost in it. Because I'm a writer and I write stuff. I mean, that's pretty much what he was saying. It's not very subtle, but oh well. The story was good. So not too long after she gets denied at this publicist, the Tom Hiddleston, walks in and he's like, "Oh hey," and goes to this girl's dad. I don't remember her name, and I don't remember the actress that plays her, but he comes in and he's like, "Okay, hey, we've got all this clay underneath my manor out in London, and we're trying to mine it. And I've got this system to mine all the clay, and you can do all this stuff with clay. So you want this clay? So give me some money. I can fund the clay machine, and you'll get the money, return and profits and stuff like that." In investing, and they're like, "Oh no, fuck off, you've already gone to all these other places and they've denied you money," or something like that. Basically, they're like, "It seems like you're kind of scamming because you've gone to these other places for money too. I don't trust you. Get out of here." And then, stuff happens while they're all there, and the main girl ends up kind of falling for Tom Hiddleston. And the dad is like, "Yo, I don't like you." And then he realizes, he's like, "Hey, come meet me into this room. I found out this shit about you, so I'm gonna give you some money for you to dip out of here. But you only get the money if you leave and break my daughter's heart. Like, don't let her come with you. Make sure she's like says fuck you by the end of this." So that pretty much happens. But then the dad gets killed, and and Tom Hiddleston has a sister, and they're like, "Oh, they're clearly doing something shady," and so they're like, "Yeah, let's oh yeah." The dad gets killed, and Tom Hiddleston comes back, and he's like, "Yo, I actually do love you. Your pops told me that to do this, but I actually love you." And then she like catches him, and then they end up getting married, and she moves to London with him. So they get there, and also it's kind of been mentioned like, oh, maybe ghosts only show up when you need them, or we only see them when we need them. They're always around, but we only see them when we need them, or something like that. So they go to this mansion, and the girl's like, "Oh, this is dope. This is a mansion," but they're like, "Oh yeah," but remember the clay is the mansion's sinking, like it's kind of in shit shambles because we don't have any money. We're trying to get this stuff off the ground. They're like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then she starts seeing this ghost, and she's like, "Oh, what the fuck's going on? This is crazy." And the ghost isn't really saying much, from what I remember. It's just like, like trying to come at her. So she's seeing this ghost. She knows that something's like weird is going on. The sister's creepy, and the sister and the brother, obviously are talking coots in the background. We don't really know. Their mom died when they were kids. We know that. And uh, and meanwhile, back in America, um, Jax from Sons of Anarchy is doing some snooping because he actually loves the main girl. He's like, "Yo, I don't like that she married Tom Hiddleston. I mean, dude is Loki. He's obviously got some shit up his sleeves." And so he's like, "Why did they?" He finds out that the dad paid them off for something and all this stuff, and so he's doing snooping to try to figure out what's going on. And back in Hiddleston land, the girl is like getting sick. She's coughing up blood. And then it's starting to snow and getting really cold. And Tom Hiddleston's like, oh, yeah, and that's why they call, it's soon it's going to be Crimson Peak. And she's like, yo, what? And he's like, yo, because of the clay, like it seeps up and it turns the snow that reddish color, the clay, and everybody calls it Crimson Peak. And she's like, yo, I fucked up because my ghost mom told me a couple times to beware of Crimson Peak, and here I am. So she steals a key from the sister and opens this door that she finds out all this information. Basically, what happened was the brother and sister were going to these different areas where he would seduce and end up marrying a woman who had inherited like a lot of money, and she doesn't have any other family, and so then they would get her money, and then they would kill her. Turns out they also killed the mom when they were kids. Because the mom was like, the parents were really bad and weird, and they would like lock them into this room, kind of like Flowers in the Attic kind of thing. I think that's what that book movie was called or whatever. Uh, and so then, unsurprisingly, later you find out also the sister and the brother, like the main girl like hears humming, and she's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, "Oh, there's humming like this lullaby, and there's also heavy panting." And she walks in her room to see the sister humming this lullaby while she's jerking off Tom Hiddleston, and so that was interesting. Uh, and then so she's like, "Oh, you guys, this is pretty funny." She's like, gets chased by him, and they're like, "Yo, uh, we gotta fucking kill you now." And she's about to kill her, but there's knocking on the door, and they're like, we can't kill her now. There's somebody right there. And the main girl goes, "I get it now. You're not even brother and sister." And the sister goes, "Oh, that's what makes it awesome. We are." And then pushes her off the balcony. She survives though. And then Jax is at the door, and he's like, "Yo, um, I'm here." And they're like, "Oh, she fell," and he like fixes her up. But then he's like, "Hey, we got to get out. I read all the stuff that your dad found out. We got to get out of here." The siblings figure this out. They get in all this stuff, and then she tells Tom Hiddleston, she's like, "Hey, you got to kill Jax, or else I will." And so he's like, "Okay, I will." And he grabs the knife and he goes up to him, and right before he stabs him, he's like, "Hey, she would have killed you, but I'm telling you right now, you're a doctor." Which, by the way, he is. He's a doctor. He's like, "So tell me where I need to stab you, for it to not kill you, basically." And so he guides his hand, and he gets stabbed. And then later we see Loki brought him down to like this little cellar thing. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go get our boo up there. I'm gonna save her. It won't be straight. I'm gonna stop her from signing those papers to give the money. I've changed her heart because I'm in love with her, or whatever." So he goes up there. There's this big fight with all this crap happening, and the Loki gets stabbed in the face by the sister, and so he's dead. And then now it's 1v1 between the main girl and the sister, and it ends with them fighting in the snow. And then Loki's ghost comes up, and he's like, "Yo, what up?" And the girl's like, "Hey, look at your brother." And she's like, "Oh my god, he's right there." But then she beats her over the head with a shovel, and so our girl wins and goes off with Jax, both surviving. And it ends with her being like, "Oh yeah, I know ghosts are real," or something like that. So credits roll. Uh, but yeah, so that's it with that. It was it wasn't Guillermo's best work, that's for sure. Definitely, it had some bumps. Um, it wasn't bad though. It was pretty good. It wasn't really a scary movie though. There wasn't anything very scary. There were some creepy elements, but I would say Pan's Labyrinth was a lot creepier than this. And so when it comes down to this versus Paranormal Activity is a better movie. Obviously, Crimson Peak leaps and bounds ahead of Paranormal Activity, but I almost think that if you're really wanting to go to the movie theater on Halloween, Paranormal Activity has so many of like the cheap jump scares. Like that's what it's about. I think that if you went and saw that in like a crowded theater, and you were feeling it, you'd probably like jump a few times. I, at the same time, it's like so obvious when they're gonna do a jump scare because it's like, oh, everything's quiet, and it's we're focusing on something, so something's gonna pop out from the side of the screen, fall down, do something. So that I don't know. Actually, you know what? Don't see this movie. Don't ever see it. There's no reason why you would ever see this movie. I mean, I, I saw it for free, and I wish that I didn't see it. I there's no excuse as to why you would ever watch Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. Which, by the way, what is that subtitle is terrible. The Ghost Dimension, like that's like as bad as the tagline for Jaws 4. This time it's personal. I mean, seriously, I can't. There are no jokes to be said about the title, The Ghost Dimension, because it's already the punchline. There's nothing I can say to make that subtitle funnier. I'm surprised there wasn't a point in the movie where they were looking at the camera and they're figuring out what it does, and they're like, "Oh my god." Or somebody told them, they're like, "Well, you know how we see in the third dimension, we see everything like this. Well, there's another dimension, and this camera sees in that. It's called the ghost dimension." As he looks at the camera, because you can do that in these movies because they're all filmed, found footage style or whatever. Eh, don't. I guess if you can see this movie for free, it's just so bad. There, I don't know. I almost like they're just things that I can't even convey because I don't feel like you'd believe me that it would happen in the movie. It's just so, and there are things that I've already just forgotten because my mind is trying to like not. It's one of the worst movies I've seen in a while. That's for sure. Crimson Peak was actually pretty good. It was decent. I wouldn't say that Crimson Peak was it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't Guillermo's best. Not even close to Guillermo's best, actually. But I wouldn't say it was his worst either, because the man made that one movie about the giant grasshoppers or whatever, or cockroaches. I don't know. Between these two, Crimson Peak wins, hands down, victor of this battle. Crimson Peak, congratulations. So yeah, next week I will be watching probably, you know what? Steve Jobs is on the list. Maybe The Martian. I think maybe that's what I'll do. Steve Jobs versus The Martian. What do you guys think? Send me emails, bestworstmedia@gmail.com if you have questions. Check out the bestworstmedia@wordpress.com, the website. Check that out. Tell your friends. Show everybody. I'll be setting up a Patreon account soon with a bunch of other stuff going on, a lot of stuff in the works. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram @FlyingSeal. You can check that out. We'll have a Facebook page. We'll have, the website that I already mentioned. Also, check out my buddies over at Three Wise Media. Check out their Facebook page. They've got a great podcast going on. A couple of them, actually. So, yeah, check them out. Check the sites out. And stay tuned for more of Movie Versus and, more of me.